Hi everyone, welcome to Share Explores where we talk to different experts about community so you don't have to.
Today's guest is Ariz Haq, who we found through LinkedIn. Incredibly interesting profile, by the way. And she's only 24. She's built Upraise community to more than 5,000 people and is now a guest faculty of marketing at Mesa School and an organic growth expert who works fractionally with B2C startups. Ariz, welcome to our podcast.
Hello, hello. Thank you, folks. Thanks a lot for having me.
So, we have this signature question that we ask everybody. What do you think is the absolute truth about community?
Sure. Thanks a lot for that question. Maybe I can start with talking about how I define community, right? So, for me, community is a bunch of people who love you, who care for you, and who support you. If you want to build a community around your product, right? Maybe you run an agency, you have a software that you sell. For you to have people who care about you and support you, you need to have a product that is good enough. Okay. I'm not even saying that you need to have a kick-ass product, but a good enough product, a solid enough product. If you have a product that sucks, if you have a customer experience that sucks, it will be terribly, terribly tough to have people who support you, right? In fact, I remember I was watching this reel yesterday, and there's this bunch of guys going really famous on Instagram. They're called the Croffle guys. And I created a reel about, that they were receiving hate. So some food reviewer came to their place and they gave very bad reviews and they were receiving hate. And then they said, but wow, we are getting so much love in the comments and people are supporting us. It means that we've built a community for ourselves. So I think that is what I feel is a non negotiable. If you're receiving any sort of hate or if you're in a controversy, which is very sort of, very less likely to happen. But if that happens, you can count on these people, right? So that is your community. And for that to happen, first you need to provide value to them, right? So you need to build a product that they love and would cheer for. I feel people who just lurk around, right? Which I feel is 95% of any community, are also as important. They might not speak up for a lot of reasons. They think they'd be judged, they think that their opinions are not as good enough, right? But they are also as likely to support you.
I think you're the second person who in my life has brought attention to the lurkers. The first time I met someone and we were just talking about community and they said, you know what really sucks when a community shuts down? It's that people think that the most active members are the ones who are going to miss the community the most.
Yeah.
That's not true. They're so social, they're so extroverted that they will find another community for themselves. They will go out of their way and find another space to belong. It's the lurkers that will have so much of a difficult time to kind of find a space to belong again because they don't talk as much, but they've not left your community. That means
Yeah.
they are getting value.
Hmm.
They just don't know how to express it. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Just
interesting
to
that you
add to
brought it
that,
up.
so at my previous stint, I used to work with this edtech startup, and unfortunately, we had to shut down. It's been a year, and yet I'm still the admin of all of these community channels. Okay, I still, to date, after a year, every week at least I get one message from somebody from that group, right, asking me about something. And these are not names that I'm familiar with, which means they were not of the super members, because otherwise I would have, I had their names on top of my mind. But these are people who miss what we had built, right? And a lot of these messages are, okay, have you shut down? Are you guys coming back? I miss you. All of these people were very active in sort of, making the best out of the resources we were providing to them. But maybe it's not in their behavior, which I think is a behavior a lot of people do not maybe come ahead and talk about something or share something, right? Because they are just reserved in that manner.
So now I just wanted to kind of understand you've done community. Now you're a fractional marketer. Where do you think community sits right now in the marketing matrix?
I'd say at the core of it, at the heart of it. So I just mentioned my definition of community, right? It is people who support you. And for any wheel to get going, you need to have people to support you. If we talk about marketing, if you're active on social media and you want people to engage with your posts, right? It is your community members, right? Who will take out 5 minutes of their time to come and drop a comment, right? Or to repost it with their network. If you want to do user interviews, right? It is these people who would say, okay, you can have 15 minutes of your time. I'd love to share my feedback. These are the people who will show up at your events. These are the people who will have a great experience with you and go back and tell their friends, their colleagues about it. So I think for each, especially me, I work, I help brands grow organically, which means I focus on content, I focus on partnerships, events, and community. And I feel without these bunch of people who support you and love you and care for you, none of these other sort of, spokes of the wheel would work.
And when it comes to having like a well-oiled marketing machine, right? Marketing is often the function that gets cut the first. Where do you think community like lies in this space?
I think unfortunately a lot of people do not realize the importance of communities, right? I am not sitting here with any data, but I'm sure even in the Indian startup ecosystem, very few startups might have a running community or people actually sort of managing the community. So somebody assigned to look after or build a community. So unfortunately, it is not a very prominent part. But in my experience, what I've felt is startups or companies that are founded and run by people who have either been in people facing roles or were in product management understand the need of communities because in their sort of previous experience, they had the chance to work with these people, right? So a product manager knows how important it is to have access to their users so that they can do user reviews, right? A marketer knows how important it is for me to have access to people so that they engage with what I'm putting out in the world. So companies that are run by people who've been in people facing role, product roles, etc., understand the need of it. I also feel a lot of times marketing teams are in the process of creating communities, but not in a very structured manner. So you would not find them running a Slack channel or a WhatsApp, right? But maybe they're putting enough effort into brand building that they're creating a community. Maybe they have not yet put enough effort to, institutionalize it, right? To create like a specific space and invite people there. But through all their other efforts, they're still working on the same sort of, values, right? They're still providing value to the audience. They are creating a sense of belonging in them. And that works out. But it is true that, in comparison to other channels of marketing, community is not what a lot of people, vouch for or, actively build on.
Do you think founders in the Indian like startup space understand the importance of community?
A lot of them who have never worked with users don't understand the concept of it. They are like, okay, just ship it and, people will adopt for it. So, say if you're working in a startup and you want to actively work on community, you want to build a community, I think your first step should be to identify people around you who also believe in the value of a community. Founders do not want to create community because they don't see a clear ROI. If you're in sales, you're like, okay, I have 5 people, they generate 50 lakhs in revenue, clear ROI. Your performance marketer, I spend 20,000 rupees in running ads today and I get like 100 leads, clear ROI. For community and for any sort of organic channels, it takes longer to nurture, right? So you can't build a community today and expect like 5 people to pay and become paying users tomorrow. So that ROI, to show that ROI is tough. And that is why companies or startups mostly which operate with very lean teams and very lean budgets do not actually scoop out the time to work on communities. If you tie the outcomes of your community with the outcomes that also enable other teams to do better, you can get that buy-in to get started on it. For example, you promised the marketing team that I'll build this group of people, and maybe through the conversations they have on the channel, it will create a gold mine of content for you. Maybe you promise the product team that in a month I'll nurture people enough so that they come in and say, I want to do interview, user interview. Or if one of the larger goals, you tell your sales team that I will nurture people here and create, convert them as leads and bring them to you.
We find that terminology itself confuses a lot of people, right? They often like confuse community with the word audience. Do you think we still have that problem? We know we've noticed that a lot, But they think, yeah, but I have like a huge community of 30,000 followers on my Instagram, but there's nobody in my WhatsApp community, right?
Yeah.
So what do you think about like that like issue or that confusion people face?
I think this is a very common myth. Everybody thinks your followers is your community. But I think if I go back to my definition and if I'm receiving hate on the internet, will those 30,000 people who follow me come to support me? In fact, some out of these 30,000 people will only be hating on me, right? So how are they my community? But it is a very common perception. You would hear a lot of these, content creators say, or founders who work on their personal branding say that, oh, we have a audience of this much. But if at the end of the day you have to do the math and you have to, even forget a lot of times you can build community out of people who are not even your users, right? If they really believe in your values. Like, for example, there's an insurance company called Plum. I am not their user, okay? But with time, just reading, you could say I was a part of their audience. The marketing they would do, the brand building that they would do, I was the receiving end of it. And I have become so much a part of that is that now I'd say identify as a part of the community, right? Even though I'm not in any of their spaces that they might have built. But if tomorrow somebody raises a question to Plum, maybe I'm going to be the one to go and support them, right? Audience is definitely not your community, but it is also true that people who are a part of your audience and not a part of your community space can also be a part of your community.
I'm a firm believer that you cannot build a community on Instagram. You are building an audience, and some of them might convert to your community, but ultimately for me the definition of community would be if I am talking to an Aries and Aries needs to be able to talk back to me. And when you have that kind of number like the 30K 50K like followers, it's very difficult for any brand to be like, acha, Aries has commented, I need to go respond back,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it'll be like last of your priority, right?
Hmm.
So I mean, I know that people have the idea or the concept of community has shifted. Maybe 5 6 years ago, even before founder content became a thing, personal branding became a thing, every brand would say we have a community of 100K, yay. And that's their audience on Instagram, right?
Yeah.
Now we are seeing that brands are using the word also community very, they're being
Very
very
freely.
mindful at it. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're being mindful of it too, because they know someone or the other will be like, hey bro, this is not your community, this is your audience. So as a long time community builder, you've built a praised community, right? 5,000 plus, that's insane number. Have you seen the role of community shift over the years from when you started to where you are now?
On how I have seen sort of community, changing over the years. So it was back in 2021, I was working with the United Nations Foundation and it was a part-time role. I was a part of their Asia Pacific team. And United Nations Foundation used to run a campaign called the Girl Up campaign. And there used to be young girls in schools and colleges operating their own clubs across, Asian Pacific. So I was leading their community and events. And back there, our idea of building a community. Now, of course, we wanted something out of these people who are building these clubs, right? Who are running these clubs. So we had a very clear agenda. We wanted them to be more active. And for that, how you'd enable that is through a lot of resources. We do one-on-one office hours with them. We would give them some funding, or we would do campaigns that would sort of kickstart some of their applications, right? And coming to last year when I was with Amazed, the objective of that community was different. Here it was again very transactional. I think let's not forget that if a brand is building a community, they want something out of it. So at Appraised, it was an edtech startup. We were helping people grow in their careers. And I was running this community. I was able to scale it to 5,000 people. And it was a bunch of people. The idea was to convert them from being a part of our top of the funnel to our bottom of the funnel. And to nurture them, we would give them access to maybe, top of the industry people, right? We would host a lot of live sessions for them. We would host a lot of in-person events for them. So the goal of both these communities that I was operating and running were two very, very different. But I think the idea was the same, that it is that at the end of the day, it is the brand who wants to get something out of it, right? I've seen brands being more reciprocative of building communities, right? Of understanding the importance for it. But the core of it has always remained the same. It is, either you want to nurture or I think also we are here in this conversation, we're talking about community as a part of marketing vertical, but communities are also a part of customer success verticals. The biggest change that I've seen happening is brands being more active in community building, speaking about it more openly. We've seen a lot of community manager roles coming up, which maybe didn't existed as much 5 to 6 years back. But I think the core of the reason behind running or building communities remains the same.
I like that because I think a big part of this community marketing that is happening is catered to a very specific audience. And that audience ultimately is Gen Z, right? Or at least the brands are trying to market to Gen Z. My question is, do you think Gen Z needs an online community in the first place?
Uh, I think all of us need communities. We need a space to be ourselves, right? And a lot of times that cannot happen publicly on the internet. Right? What can brands do differently to build a community for Gen Z? I feel is being very, very honest and authentic and genuine. I get baffled when a brand thinks, they feel, oh, we'll talk in Gen Z slang and that is how we'll build a connection with Gen Z. That doesn't happen. I am a Gen Z. Everybody that I know, my friends, my colleagues are of the same age group. We do not talk like this. In real life, I've never seen someone talk like this. All these slangs, maybe we use it once or twice, in memes or our exchanges over the internet, but nobody in real life talks like that. And it comes off as so awkward when brands try to leverage in on this language to be relatable to Gen Z. I hate that. And I also feel that classification of a generation and thinking that an entire generation operates the same way is also very flawed. In fact, I'd written like a post around this that did really well. And as I was talking about me and my friend, we went to school in the same city. We went to the same college. We've studied the same sort of course, right? We're both marketers. We both work in Bangalore. We both earn around the same figures. But how we live our life and the way we make our decisions are polar opposites. That also means that the brands that we deal with at the end of the day, right, we engage with are also very, very different. So I think to classify that an entire generation will act the same way is flawed. But what I feel, because we've been an internet first generation, right? We were very young when we were introduced to internet and all of it. I think there are people who value authenticity. We want you to be honest. We do not enjoy fluff. It is very easy for us to access any sort of information, right? So if you're building a community, you have to do something different for me. Like a lot of people, how they operate communities is that I will pick something from the internet, write something, and share it with you as a resource. I don't think that really works anymore. You need to enable something else. Maybe you're enabling some special kind of access for me, right? Maybe you're enabling me to make relationships that I cannot make otherwise, right? So I think on top of information, because information now is so easily available, you need to give me access to things that I do not have otherwise to make me a active member of your community.
I'm seeing a lot of brands actually in the taboo industry, right? When we talk about mental health, sexual health, wanting to build community. And one very popular space is the women's health. Everyone who's selling protein powder supplements for women, they want to be like the Reddit, right? They want to create like a Reddit on WhatsApp. Like I
Hmm.
want all the women jo Reddit pe jaake questions to come on my WhatsApp and ask me questions. And they'll always be like, and how can we do that? The first question, and that very you rightfully mentioned, is what value are you giving me?
Yeah.
These are Gen Z women. Like, we know how to search the internet. I'm not Gen Z, but yeah. Like, you all know how to search the internet. You know how to ask questions to Chat GPT. What is it that you're building so differently?
Hmm.
So I'm guessing the first essential of building an online community for a Gen Z would be make sure you give me something different, right? Like whether that's experience, whether that's resources, whether that's access to maybe an expert. Because a lot of Gen Z have realized they know what to do, they just don't know where to go and ask questions.
Yeah.
Because all of us share, like in India especially, a lot of us have the same gynac as our moms do,
Yeah.
so we can't really go and ask questions openly. So I'm guessing like an access to an expert, a non-judgmental gynac or sexologist or anyone who can help you ask, who can help you give you verified answer would be it. Does the platform matter for a Gen Z? Does it matter if it's a Discord or if it's a WhatsApp?
With respect of platform, I don't think that really sort of matters. One thing that could be true is that maybe WhatsApp might not work because then people have access to your phone numbers and stuff, right? And you do not know who's just joining, right? If the filter is there, anybody can click on a link and join. Maybe I again wouldn't be comfortable. But if there has been a proper sort of filtration, or if this is a paid community, I just, will happen to trust the space more to open up and to ask questions.
Have you come across any communities in the taboo space that people are liking? Like communities, when I'm talking like outside Instagram. I know Lisa is there. I know Sex Education India is there, that's doing
Hmm.
great. Talk You Never Got. Like all those people are there, but outside Instagram, have you come across any communities?
I think I'd mentioned two. One of them existed long back ago. I'm not sure if they are still running, but there was a bunch of these, young folks who built this community called Ripen. Okay. So they operated on WhatsApp and there were multiple WhatsApp groups. And there was a group only for women, right? And I think they would like speak to you uh, and stuff before. So there was a filtration process before they let you in. And it was a space where, just people would open up very freely, right? And I think, yeah, I remember the experience of being a part of that. And a lot of people would just open up, oh, I'm having a difficulty with this. I'm looking for a gynac in Bangalore. This is an issue that I'm facing. So it was a very open space. And that, you're surrounded by women only. So that created a safe space for you. Second community that I'm not a part of. While I'm the customer, I'm not a part of the community, but I've heard of them, their community from a lot of people is Tilt. So the undies for women before I became one of their customers, and there was something going on, some issue related to women rights going on in the country. And she was telling me how it's a super active community and, folks are discussing their thoughts, etc. So it came off as a safe space to me. For women, I think one safe space is just being, you know, uh, surrounded by people of our own gender, right?
Especially in India, where a lot of the spaces are infiltrated by somebody or the other. Having those like closed communities are really useful. If I were to ask you to distill like your top three things when you're building like online community spaces for Gen Z, what would those look like?
And my first would be that it is a no judgment space, right? I think that is a non negotiable. It has to be a space where anybody can come in and share their opinions. And I understand there needs to be strict filtering for that because you cannot censor. You can't let people in and then censor what they're saying, right? I know of private communities that are solving through other sort of layers of filters. So maybe it is paid communities or most professional communities then look at how many years of experience you have so that conversation between two people are, equally enriching, right? So I think, yeah, a non-judgmental zone. Second will be if I'm delivering them core value, right? I do not just want to add a bunch of people to a WhatsApp group and give them the space to talk about anything, right? That is not community. How am I adding something to their lives, right? Am I giving them any sort of access, right? Am I giving them answers to questions that they do not have otherwise, right? Am I helping them connect with others, right? Third, and I've been, sort of noticing in communities lately, especially community as a product or community as a service, is a space for me to connect with others, right? I think a lot of us have been talking about, oh, it is so tough to make friends when we grow up. Most of us move to a new city for work, for studies, and it is tough to figure out people, to build your circle from scratch again. And I'm seeing a lot of communities now are focusing on helping you connect or find like minded people, right? So I think to propagate that would be my thought.
A little earlier, you had mentioned that when it comes to community, people are stuck with the idea of what is the ROI? How do I, justify having community? As a community manager, what are the KPIs you think somebody should look at? So that they are able to pitch or they're able to justify the existence of community.
Yeah, I think my first point, and if any, founder, marketing leader is watching this, don't ask any of your social media person to suddenly wake up one day and start managing your community, right? How a social media person operates and some of the skills that they have might be very different from somebody who manages a community. So let's first talk about what are some of the problems you want for your community manager to solve. Basics to understand who you're building for and how you're building for it, right? It is to create a space where people will trust each other, right? And maybe trust is not necessarily what you solve for if you manage social media, right? So I think the skills are very different. Community managers, some of the skills that I would look for them in will be first being empathetic. I think that is non-negotiable if you're hiring someone to work with real human beings, right? So they need to have empathy, need to be understanding. Second, I'd say that they need to be good at communicating their thoughts, because as a part of your daily sort of, operations, you would be speaking to a lot of other people. Third, because I am a marketer and operate from community as a part of the marketing vertical, I feel that they should have some knack of marketing, right? In the sense that they know if you have certain sort of KPIs to achieve, how are you going to go and achieve them, right? And for that to happen, you also need to be analytical. A lot of people think, oh, community is such a fun job. You just write messages. No, you have to look at the data. You have to understand what is working. So you have to be a good community manager, you have to be analytical. And my last point will be that you also need to be creative, because you need to do something creative to get people sitting in their homes to talk about something, to take the effort to maybe type something, or take the effort to show up at one of your events, or take the effort to show up at maybe your product interview, right? So you need to be creative. Now, these are some of the skills that I feel a community manager should have. Now, when it comes to KPIs, I think it depends on what is the objective you want to achieve through that community. Now, there can be engagement KPIs, right? You want people to have write X number of messages. You want X number of people to join the community every month. That would be a KPI. Then there could be business KPIs, which means I want it to translate to X amount in my revenue. That is also how a lot of communities operate. I want X many people to show up at my event, right? Or sales led. I want, to convert by the end of the month. I want, this percent of number to be my leads, to be eligible for my leads, and want to be ready to speak to my sales team. So I think the KPIs would depend on the objective of building that community. In other terms, if the community is, led by a customer success team, maybe it is to create enough UGC content, right? Or maybe it is to attribute some part of the revenue to word of mouth, right? Or to referrals. So I think KPIs completely depend on why you're building the community, and cannot at large be, I cannot mention like two, three that would work at large for everybody. But I think the skills that we, spoke about would remain the same irrespective of what objective or what goal is it that you're working on.
I like the fact that you had mentioned many KPIs for different like groups, because I think right now whenever we speak to like a founder who's growing like 0 to 1 and they're interested in building community, either because they've heard about it,
Yeah.
it's a buzzword, everyone is doing it,
Yeah.
or they think it will cost less than getting a meta guy. And most of the KPI conversation we have there is like, acha, my meta guy said he's going to, I'll put in 20, I can get in like leads. Where what can I put, like if I hire you guys, what is the ROI that I'll see in the first month, second month, third month? And it is getting so difficult to tell people like, hey, I don't know what you know about community, but for the first 3 months you will see nothing.
Yeah.
You are getting a bunch of strangers and building trust with them. This is like going on a blind date with many people at the same
Yeah.
time, right? You have to like increase increase their trust on you. You have to increase their like value that you give to them. Like they need to see the value. So I think it's an interesting time that we are in. Like people value community just enough but not enough, just enough to talk about it but not enough to like
Yeah.
make that big investment and understand that for the first 3 to maybe even 6 months, depending on what your product is. And if your product is shit, maybe even longer, you will not see any ROI on the community. That's the now. So, where do you think the future of the community is, especially in India?
I think it's going to be bright. Also, because I feel building has become super easy, right? You can ship any product, in a couple of hours, right? So building has become, which earlier was the mode, has become supremely easy. Now, I think the differentiator and how a lot of people also saying taste will be a differentiator, right? I feel brand loyalty and the customer experience will be a differentiator. And to have that brand loyalty, you need to have a community. So I feel with time, now that you've solved for how to build any, execute any idea in a matter of days, now the conversations would shift to, okay, there are 50 solutions that are available in the market that solve the same problem. How do we make people choose us? Or how do we make people recommend us? And that is going to happen through building, thriving communities. I feel either a part of a marketing team or a part of the customer success team, there will be community teams, a community vertical coming out, and we're going to see more and more of community roles opening up, and a lot of startups, especially because they operate on such lean budgets, building their own communities. I think brands are going to become more user centric with time, because you need to crack something. Now that all of us have cracked product, we need to crack something, and that is how we value our customer. What value do we provide for them, right? And I think I'm also seeing a surge in community as a service or community as a product. There's offline that has come up. There are a lot of dating sort of apps that are also operating as communities. So the objective is not, okay, I help you find a date, but more of a community setup, right? And yeah, and so many people are actually now creating paid communities. I'm sure you all have heard of GrowthX, right? They are a community as a service, right? And they charge good amount for it. One community that I really, really wanted to be a part of, but they recently shut down, is there's a brilliant brand marketer. His name is Louis Gregor. He runs, I think his company is called Stand the Fuck Out. And he ran a community for marketers to teach them how to stand the fuck out, right? And he was making decent money out of it, right? But change in sort of his objectives, so he shut down. So I think, yeah, uh, teams are going to become extremely more and more user centric. So they are going to come up with their own sort of, people to help them grow their communities. And second, more and more community as a service or community as a product is also popping up.
So before we end, Aris, let the people know what you've been working on and where they can find you.
You can always find me on LinkedIn. I hate that LinkedIn is not Twitter, in the sense that it doesn't support like 10 tweets a day. Otherwise, I would be writing 10 times a day. But you can find me on LinkedIn. My full name is Aris Haq. And what I do, for the last 1 year, I've been helping brands, mostly B2C startups, with their organic growth. So content is my specialty, but partnerships, events, all of it is what I help. So my basic agenda, or my, yeah, I think an agenda I propagate is that if you're smart enough and if you're creative enough and you have some time on your hands, you don't ever need to pay a penny to run ads. You can do exceptionally well through the organic channels. So yeah, I am an organic growth specialist. But yeah, that's what I do.
All right, that's a wrap. If you enjoyed our podcast, please don't forget to share, like, and subscribe to our channel. And of course, follow us on LinkedIn. That's it.